if you've ever tried. Know that it's a lot easier if you're in person to run said meetings than to run it from online. So thank you for your grace in advance.
There it is. We're in 15.
We're 15. Hooray, now we have quorum. I just want to know.
Calling it quorum so that if anybody falls off, we're good.
Okay. All right, do you do the roll call?
Yes, I do roll.
Could you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Abbott Luke. Let's see.
Present here on Zoom.
I see Emily. I know she's been jumping. Let's see. Emily, are you there for Airport Heights?
Yeah, I'm here. My Zoom has crashed like 5 times already, so I apologize if I'm in and out a lot, but I'll do my best.
Best of luck. We'll keep letting you back in. Basher.
Thank you.
I see Don. I'm gonna call him here. Bayshore Flat.
Present.
Thank you. Bear Valley, I don't see. Birchwood, we don't have. Campbell Park, I also don't see. Chukia, I see. He was. Yeah, there is the call. Hey, Paul, you here? I'm gonna call.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
No, all good. Downtown, I don't see Eagle River. I also don't think I see or Eagle River Valley. Okluna Fairview. Welcome back, Alan.
Hello, guys, gals.
I see Mike online from Girdwood. Where are you, Mike?
Present.
I don't see Glen Alps and Government Hill excuse themselves. Hillside.
Yeah, present.
Welcome. No Huffman O'Malley or Midtown that I see. Mountain View.
Present accounted for.
Thank you. North Star currently does not have a delegate. I don't see Northeast. Jokey. Old Seward Ocean View. I see.
Yes, present.
Hi, Gary. Thank you. No Portage. I don't see a Rabbit Creek. Or a Rogers Park. Russian Jack.
Here.
Thank you. Sand Lake is not present. Scenic Foothills, I'm just, if you're gonna touch on that, Patrick LeMay, stepped down, as treasurer and as delegate for Scenic Foothills, and, we don't have a replacement at Senate. South Edition.
Here.
Thank you. South Fork, not present. Spinard. Here. Thank you. I don't see Taku Campbell. No Tudor. Kathy, breaking her streak. Not present. Ferturnigан, Michael Packard, Ferturnigан Arm.
Present.
Thank you, Michael, and Steve Callahan for University.
Yep, here.
Welcome. And that gives us 15.
Excellent. Thank you. I will entertain a motion on the agenda, or do you do the whole consent?
It's a consent agenda.
I will entertain a motion on the consent agenda
So motion.
We can do that at 10.
to approve.
Of course.
Okay. Charlie has moved to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Kathleen. Asking for unanimous consent. Did I see a raised hand from Don?
Yeah. Well, I didn't hear my name called, so I wanted to make sure you got me, because there was somebody at the time you went by Asher.
We did get you. Thank you, Don. And
Okay.
Pamela is jumping on recognizing Northeast Community Council, who is now here.
Okay, are there any objections to approving the consent agenda after we unanimous consent? Hearing no objection, we will move on to committee updates. The bylaw committee, who is on that for the bylaw committee, is that right?
It's fine. Oh, wait, do you want to do the timer?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
One
So
second.
this meeting, we're going to introduce a timer, and that is mostly for awareness. Because as we start to talk, I know I don't set a timer for myself necessarily, and sometimes I don't know if I thought for 20 seconds or 20 minutes. So we have a timer that will keep us on task. And so I'm not gonna start banging gavels or fists or anything until we get super close or over time, depending on where we are in our agenda. So this is just so we know that this is approximately how much time we have left. Okay, now I can the floor again.
Would you like me to speak briefly to this?
Yes, sorry,
Okay.
please.
That's fine.
The bylaws.
I'm not going to be able to speak for more than about a minute and a half before I have a coughing fit, so it won't be very long, and I'll hand it back to Sarah, who might have some things to add. So yeah, our last meeting we went through another large chunk of the potential bylaws or draft bylaws, made a set of suggested changes and additions and reviews. As I said last time, we're pretty much set on the model of a membership organization. So rather than have a board of 35, 37 people, what we would have is a set of members. So all community councils would be members. And then that every year that group would elect a smaller group of, maybe a dozen, that sort of size. I think we ended up 7 to 13. People who form the board, and then within that, officers are elected. So the idea is that we still continue with these coalition meetings, so the meetings of all the community councils together to talk about community council business. But because we have a slimmer board, we can probably spend less time doing sort of internal FCC business. So that's kind of one of the motivations. So we can spend more time talking about community councils and less time talking about the operation of the FCC. So as we went through this sort of poses some questions, and we're dealing with those as we go through it. I think we're probably going to need 2 more meetings before we have a complete draft that we can present. We might be quicker than that, we might be slower than that, but I think the intent is to continue meeting during the summer and have something perhaps August, definitely by September, that we can present as a complete set of bylaws, and then we'll start the broader discussion. I know I'm missing some things, but I will hand it back to Sarah before I start coughing and see if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
No, I think you touched on the big things. What is this going to look like moving forward? It's going to be a board of 7 to 13. We're working out details of who makes up that 7 to 13 and how the 7 to 13 are selected. So yeah, now it's in the weeds. Now that we have some of the bigger pieces. Ari, you were also there.
Yeah,
I have more to add.
we'll do, like I kind of said a couple times, a work session when we get closer, so that if people have questions, we can have like more conversation and also a kind of like review of the rough draft. So that if you guys do have edits or ideas that you want added, we can, the committee can hear that and take that in before they do a final presentation of it.
Does anybody have questions over?
Bylaws questions?
Seeing none, thank you, Mike. And we'll move on to core purpose and core values introduction. Is that
Yay,
you, Ari?
that's me.
Okay.
Core purpose and core values. We've been having this conversation for a minute. This is the introduction of what we will vote on at the next meeting. The body has come, or all of the different groups have come to a purpose of fostering and supporting neighborhood engagement. And our values are service, empowerment, responsibility, and stewardship. And we kind of have like subset definitions, because words can have a couple of meanings. So this is kind of describers so that we understand. So service as in support and resources, empowerment as in uplifting and educating, responsibility as in transparency and integrity, and stewardship as in continuity and archival. We got some feedback at the last meeting that there was like this continuity idea in our work. So that's where stewardship came from, and we feel really confident in this. this is a space where if you guys wanna ask questions, in the August meeting, this will be up for a vote. So there will be less conversation, so this is the time if you have like things, or if you wanna follow up with us later. I can direct any questions to the executive committee at that time. But yeah. A lot of you worked on this. That's okay. Hopefully, there's no questions, because you guys, it resonates, right? Like it makes sense, it kind of stands with what this organization is. If it feels really off from the work that we're doing, then that's where the kind of question kind of comes in. Mike?
Yeah, I do have a question really for you, Ari. Are we committed to that background?
Why?
Uh,
Do you not like it?
yeah, I'm not feeling very celebratory. Maybe that's the problem. But
Well, I liked it.
I mean, your background on screen here is very impressive.
Is that what Girdwood looks like all the time?
well, at night.
Or rub it in one. Right.
Only when they turn the northern lights on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta pay extra.
No, I had a slightly more serious comment, which is just that I really appreciate the time. This seems sometimes this can seem a very sort of small task, but it's actually generated some really good and some big conversations. Although the outcome is, what is it, about 12 words. There's been a lot of conversation going into that, and a lot of thought going into it. So I really appreciate everyone who's helped at many stages of this. Thank you.
Great.
Can you remind us what happens after we vote on this, if we vote in the affirmative?
Yeah, so the purpose kind of becomes our new mission statement to a certain extent. We can continue to wordsmith it and adopt like a more formal one. And the values, this kind of when people ask what our organization is about, this is where we set the strategic plan, this is where we set goals and annual plans. And so the idea being that now that we have this in place, we can have a real conversation about what the 3 to 5 year goals for our organization is, and have a more nuanced conversation, and spend more time with it. Because we know what our organization is and the building blocks there.
You said that it's up for a vote in August, since I'm just a representative, if they have any questions or comments before then, can they get in touch with you about it?
Yeah, at any point they can just email me, and I can always bring the questions back to the executive committee. The E-committee still meets in July, even if we just have our picnic, we just have like a kind of informal meeting, because that's the first time our new officer is taken, so we have like a thing, so we can always review it prior, and make any adjustments before we introduce it. Cool, alright, doesn't have to be long.
Great,
We
no,
love a Monday garment. On that subject. This is also the next step. This we do have to go on. That's where we do.
yes, okay, which is the 2026 budget.
Budget, that's me.
Great.
So at the last meeting, I introduced it. We had a long conversation about it, mostly having to do with insurance. There weren't a lot of questions about the budget. Nothing has changed. I literally copied and pasted the information from the last packet. So this is your final chance to ask questions before we vote on it. For those joining us online, I am going to have a Zoom poll, so you can just select that, and then in person we'll take votes. But yeah, I actually planned in advance. So I will take questions at this point on the budget. As I had said previously, the total amount has not changed. We moved some line items around, but other than that, everything is pretty the same.
And what is the budget? What value?
$241,496. They went round to 5. I really pushed for it, but they refused to give me the extra $4.
I got one
Yeah,
real general question. What is this 7,200 personnel services? What is that number?
70.
See the 7,200 personnel, you got like 79, 8,000.
Yeah, that's like the code that we use internally for
Okay.
accounting purposes. And I included those because they've kind of changed over the years. And last year, Bo and I went through those and redid some of the numbers because they're all just like made up numbers that you assign
Okay.
to have certain meaning. And so they're included because we are trying to keep consistent, but it's internal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that's.
Then when I like write it, ask for a check, I say, this is gonna go to 7,200 and Bo puts it in the
Oh,
right
yeah,
spot
alright.
for the accounting.
Gotcha, but it's not like an IRS thing.
No.
Okay.
No, I can make it up, I can change it to 1 tomorrow. It
Oh.
won't make a difference. Yeah,
All right, now, just wondering, just.
no, good question.
Is trading highlighted because it's reimbursable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So even though our overall number is the 2041 496, we actually only get paid 2031 496 because then I have to reimburse for the 10. So we technically front that money, but in the end with like cash flow and stuff, it doesn't end up being much of a difference. I have a question for Mike.
Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, just
Oh, wait.
another comment about those classification codes as well. The other thing that went into that was one of the things you have to report to the IRS is how much you spend on programs and how much you spend on overhead. And as we rearranged those numbers, we made sure that the different categories fall into one or the other. So it's easier to do that summary as well. It's easier throughout the year to sort of look at these reports and understand whether our overhead number is roughly where we expect it to. I think some previous years, the overhead number was suspiciously low. And I think some years it was high because there wasn't quite that same consistency. So we're trying to be consistent in communication with outside groups as well.
Yes, thank you. And this also, rearranging all of this sets us up for success that if we get to a point where we're getting other grants and other like larger donations, we can start to look at our budget and the municipal grant as part of a larger budget rather than this being our primary budget. And so reorganizing this sets us up to have a better nuanced approach to our budget. So the 8,000 line is essentially like the program's cost because we've split out all the stuff we do specifically for community councils. In the nonprofit world, we always say like personnel is always gonna be the biggest line item because that's actually where all the work gets done. Like we can pay for Zoom, but Zoom isn't gonna set up itself for you guys, right? It's not gonna maintain the website. So Ally and I do also partially count as programmatic, but when we talk about like physical costs outside of personnel, then that's where like that 8,000 line lives. And so we've split out like the things that we do just to upkeep ourselves versus the things we do specifically for community councils. Mike. I heard.
I see there's a $300 bank charge. Is that just for keeping the money in the bank? What is that for?
It's a ACH charge. They charge us to be able to do virtual banking. It's $25 a month. So that just keeps us in the 21st century.
Okay.
Yeah. As a nonprofit, they don't charge us like those other to have a bank account bank fees, but they do charge us to do like digital transfers essentially.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Are there any additional questions, comments? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Can I, it's Mike here, can I move to approve the budget, please? The 2026 budget.
Mike has moved to approve the 2026 budget. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second.
Seconded by Steve. Steve,
And
I heard Steve
Mike.
first. Okay, all those in favor in the room, raise your hands.
You are not representing Handle Map, so.
All those in the room opposed, raise your hand or one.
did everyone online get a chance? Dawn, did you have a question?
No, I was just raising my hand to vote.
Okay. I think that's it. I'll end the poll.
Don, were you voting yes or no?
Yes, I'm voting yes.
Okay. So that gives us
10. We should have 16 people.
Non-opposed.
Yeah, so it should be 15.
I count 11. That's
Five.
what Temple's means.
Right.
Oh, there's
And then-
10 online?
Yeah, there's 10 online
Apologies,
and
okay.
5, there's 11 online and 5 in the room, so that should be.
Okay.
Just 10 online, 5, 4 in the room, 1 against, and us.
10 online. We had 5 in the room say yes, we have 1 who does not vote and 1 against.
Right, so that's 16, and we have 16.
Yes, so. It passes.
Yes. It passes.
It passes.
Yay.
Thank you, everyone.
Now we'll go to the clerk and be included in the budget, and we will move on.
Comment period. Does anybody have any comments? All right, what's a comment?
I have a comment,
Oh, yes.
Picnic! Yay! Next meeting's a picnic. It's at, I don't know how to say that.
Chanshu, Holding Park.
Chancellor Muldoon Park under the pavilion. We'll have food and we invite you to bring something. Also, there's limited seating, so maybe bring like a camping chair. Last year it rained. We're hoping it doesn't rain, but we do have cover. So, yeah, we're gonna be every year kind of doing different parts, trying to get different parts of Anchorage. And this time we're gonna be in the Muldoon area. So see you there. It's on the 3rd Wednesday. Same time. Well, it's a little earlier. It's 5 to 7, but same bat time, same bat place.
Well, it's not the same back.
Not the same bat place.
We're
Okay. We won't be here.
Yeah.
Just open to everybody.
Open to the public. I'll invite the assembly and the mayor.
Okay,
So everybody's welcome.
are you gonna send out a notice to come down?
I'll put it in the weekly newsletter. Yeah.
Okay, and then, are you gonna have like, you're not gonna have like a meeting per se?
No, there's no formal meeting. It's just a hangout. Chit chat, talk, shop.
I just wanna know if I have to go to board.
Our report is we had a wonderful picnic.
Is it public or is it invited?
We'll have like the main course and some snacks, and we encourage people to bring like a snack to for dessert.
The best combination. Okay, correct.
The easiest.
If it's not raining, I'll have more. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Okay, are there any other comments? Any comments online?
Ooh, I have one more comment. We'll be downtown for summer solstice, next to Visit Anchorage and Petrikov Park. So come say hi if you're going to the Downtown Summer Solstice Festival, and I don't know, come talk to me and hang out.
Will there be stickers?
There will be stickers.
There will be stickers.
I have stickers, and League of Women Voters is tabling with us. So if you miss me, you'll meet with League of Women Voters. We're doing some tabling because there's only one of me. Mike.
Hi, I had a more of a question, I think, rather than a comment. I know there's been some things going on with the website. I just wondered if you wanted to say anything about that, Ari. I think there was an outage and a few other bits and pieces. Thank you.
We are, there was an outage yesterday, our hosting server, they had like a double fault, so it took them a whole day, but it is now back up and working. And we are moving to a different website host that we think is going to be a better fit for our organization, and that should happen the end of this month or early July. Nothing will change for any of you. Nothing will change on the website. Except we will have a small outage that we will give you a heads up about in advance while the websites go down for a little bit while they migrate it. We're going to run that on a weekend because that is when we have the least amount of pings. So definitely not on a day when a community council meets, ideally a weekend, or like a Friday when a lot of people aren't visiting our website. Definitely not like the third Wednesday, or the second Wednesday, none of those days.
Do you have an estimated month for that? Is that like?
End of this month, early next
Oh,
month, we're trying to settle on the final day right now. But I'll give you guys, like, I'll put in the weekly newsletter that we're gonna have an outage, it'll be on Facebook, it'll be a weekend, yeah. Shouldn't affect, I can very clearly see, it's like Monday, we have this many hits, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it does that every week, very consistently.
I was kind of glad it went out on a Tuesday of all days. Oh, we had that outage yesterday, I was like, nobody's meeting today, it's fine.
Yeah, same, it's fine.
Are there any additional comments? Okay, it's 6:32 and nobody's here. I see that we'll be presenting. We can go for the education topic, or do we want to take a 5-minute
Not the it would be, we could do,
recess? Education topic being council.
we can do council.
Okay,
I think, some of the representatives are gonna be here outside, like, I tell them outside.
okay,
Instead of the business.
okay. We'll go ahead and move on to part 2, the collation meeting then. Open the meeting. Meeting opens, that's the first thing on the agenda. Council updates are good. Oh, good, Mike, you're up first.
Hi, yes, I am here. So I'm expecting to see a 1-minute timer, actually. Three main things that are going on at the moment I think are interesting. One is there is a proposal coming together from actually a community group from good non-profit called Community Land or Good Land Trust, to potentially use some public land for some affordable housing, for a range of affordable housing. Very early days, but it's an interesting thing. So it's kind of coming from within us. Hopefully that will progress over the next year or two. We have another issue that we just discovered a day or two ago about some of our trails. There is some update. There is a road being built to enter the Holden Hills area, which I hate to talk about at the FCC. But that's going ahead this summer, and we discovered that it's going to involve lots of fencing and closure of trails and things like this. So that was a big surprise to I think many people, including perhaps parts of the municipality. So we're going through that and trying to understand if that's really going to happen that way or whether there will be accommodation for our trail system. We expect there will. And the third thing is, which I've just forgotten. I remember. Oh, yes. Third thing has been going on for a couple of months. There is a proposed development at the very south end of the airport, which literally, people talk about not in my backyard. Literally, this would be building a helipad 4 feet from someone's back wall. Partly because, at least in previous year, in 30, 40 years ago, land boundaries weren't that well surveyed down here in Girdwood. So there is a proposal basically to build a helipad and have helicopters operating within 10 feet of people's houses. And that appeared a couple of months ago, came as a big surprise. There's lots of pushback and concern about that. And it has resulted in the municipality asserting that many activities on airports are still subject to municipal code, which is a position which Alaska DOT does not take. They believe they can do things independently of municipal code and law. So it's an interesting situation. I think it's going to come to a head in probably the next few months. So it's exciting down here. Thank you.
Hey, bye. We don't have Glen Elks.
Nope.
Or Hillside.
Oh, no, we do.
We have Hillside?
Yes.
Bruce. Oh, yes, Bruce.
Bruce.
Bruce, if you are talking, you are muted.
It was my fault.
Okay.
No, he's there.
There you go. Oh,
I had said nothing.
Hello?
are you there, Bruce?
There we go.
Okay, go ahead.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Just a quick update. Obviously Hillside Community Council's on our sabbatical for the month of through the month of July. We are currently though really involved in tracking the homeless initiatives, including this one that's come out from the mayors in regard to the parking initiative for the homeless folks. They are, if you're aware of it, they did have a working group meeting today. They are going to forward the AO 2025-74 will be presented at the assembly meeting on Tuesday. That's the one that has put some teeth into preventing people from and making it illegal to camp in public lands, and that kind of stuff's very important to a lot of different areas that community councils that are experiencing, a problem with the homeless and all the issues that come along with that. That's an important thing to keep track of and to take a look at. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to read AO 2025-74 as a precursor to maybe what you might want to try to accomplish and do. One of the things that will be needed is public testimony there, either from as a representative of your community council or as an individual. That would be a great thing. It does have quite a dynamic to it. That working session, you can find it on the Assembly's website. It did get recorded, so you can listen to that. It's a key critical issue, as you know, in the news. Davis Park, the cleanup there, had some complications due to some folks that attempted to burn some structures and that kind of stuff. But the abatement in that area is underway, and they seem to have a really great team out there trying to get everyone that was involved in the process, including they have social services, they have obviously medical assistance and that kind of stuff, and they are approaching all those people that lived at Davis Park. They had approached them prior to that. Before they started the abatement, but that process is going to take several days to accomplish. So anyway, that's what we're working on for the summer. Anyway, really appreciate it. You guys have a good one.
Thanks, Bruce. We have Papa Melon. We don't. Okay, Matthew.
Okay, well, the fires at the abatement were not quite as extensive as what the news was portraying. Yes, they happened, but and they did go high, but it's not like they went out too far. The fire department was there very quickly and took care of it very quickly. The individuals were all given opportunities to go into housing that was available. There were a number of what they call it, angel donators who were taking people and putting them into hotels for short-term stays. It's probably going to be going on for several weeks. We walked up by there last night, and the news is saying that everybody is out of there. Well, as soon as APD vehicles go away, they're right back in there picking over things and going through things, and so they won't be out for several weeks. Let's see. We have a couple of things other than that going on in the neighborhood. We have a street fair going on July 26th. It's from 1 to 5 for the street fair, and 5 to 7 is going to be kind of a music festival. We're trying to get it at Clark Middle School parking lot, but we don't know if we'll be able to get that or not. If not, it'll be up at the community center, which is the old Boys and Girls Club, which has been taken over by the city. That was the other part, is it seems to be going fairly smooth, going from Boys and Girls Club to the community center. That's pretty much what's going on.
Really quick, who do we contact about the street fair?
Jasmine?
Jess, okay.
All right, Northeast, is that Pamela?
Yes, happy sunny day. I'm just getting back from Sitka, so getting my feet on the ground. We had the Spirit of Muldoon picnic last weekend. Great success. It was for 2 hours. We had a flag retiring ceremony by the VFW, and the bunch of brass came from out on base, so that was nice. I think it all went better than expected, and the sun was out, which was wonderful. We're on break. Again, we're having the homeless issue. Want to thank the municipality, especially those that we contacted to help clear the Muldoon Park for that event last Saturday. And we're bracing for the encampments being taken down in Davis and Centennial. So we will be at that Monday meeting. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Old Seward Ocean View.
We met in May. We're off for June, so we have nothing to add. Thanks.
Okay, no update, I'm sorry.
No, okay.
No update, okay. We have time if any other members have any updates. Yes.
It was something with how everything was also turned up, so afterwards.
Fairview would like to make an update.
Sorry.
We're just gonna do South Edition and then we'll go to Fairview.
Yes, thank you.
So we are trying to track new housing units being developed in our community council. And right now we have one duplex being built. And we also got notification that we had an old house that was torn down being replaced by a duplex. So we have 2 new units and 1 tear down. So we have an addition of 1 new unit this year in our community. But we also got notification that Department of Housing and Urban Development has granted a $3.5 million grant to Habitat for Humanity to build a triplex and a fourplex, so 7 new units, an area of South Edition that has a lot of vacant lots between A and C Street. And these are going to be entry-level affordable housing units that cost $500,000. That's the cost of building a new unit in the community.
Okay. All right, thank you. Was that Alan from Fairview? Was that up next?
Oh yeah, great. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. First off, I'd like to make sure that we extend an open invitation to everybody to participate and to attend our annual, neighborhood, block party. And it's going to be July 19th from 11 to 4 p.m. So it's going to be cool. We're going to have, a lot of activities and booths and stuff like that. And we're going to have sun, just like today. So come on by, put it on your calendar, and we're great to see you there. So we're moving forward with our efforts for community gardens. I would encourage people, if they have an opportunity to be in the Fairview neighborhood, come by 13th and Carluck. We're finished. Well, not quite. We're almost finished with the Serenity Gardens effort, and come by and see what we're up to. So this is kind of cool. So, and we'd like to point out that the in our backyard effort over at the Central Lutheran over at 15th and Cordova, that's turning out really well. And it seems like the mayor is going to be, she likes it. And last I heard through the rumor mill is that she might come out in support of doing some additional installations throughout the community. So check it out. I think it'll be good. And the last thing is that our Reconnecting Fairview effort is, we had a first technical advisory committee meeting today. And I think the most important point was made by, Bart Rudolph over with the municipal people mover. And he said, for Fairview, in order for the improvements in Fairview, along the Gamble Inglewood corridor, for them to actually be implemented, you're gonna need the support of the rest of the Anchorage Bowl. That's you guys. So I hope that you become informed and participate and become aware of what we're doing in Fairview with the Gamble Inglewood Corridor initiative and reconnecting our community. And I think it's in the best interest of the Fairview neighborhood. But I argue that what we're doing is in the best interest of the entire municipality. So please learn what we're up to, and we hope we can get your support. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan. What would people Google if they're interested in the Ingrid Gamble Reconnecting Fairview project? Where would we find more?
I'm sorry, where are we at in terms of the timeline or?
No, if I wanted to know more, where would I go or what terms would I Google?
Oh, go to our, we can go to www.fairvieවක්.org. We have a website that's been established, all the info, all the data, all the supporting documentation, everything is, you can access through that portal.
Thank you. Would anyone like the final 30 seconds? Yes, Steve.
We've got more time.
Okay, we have more time.
Yes.
Stay away from 42nd Avenue.
42nd and what?
Like, both sides of 42nd, really, yeah. All the way to the Global Credit Union.
Lake Otis is back open.
Yeah, Lake Otis 42nd is open, but the 42nd, they're starting to work there. It's gonna be interesting. And, the other thing that came to my attention is planning departments implementing, Assembly's probably gonna vote on this, will probably be implemented. Probably 2/3 of the UMed area is going to be, probably end up with what's called a transit supported. Corridor. So this legislation, or this ordinance is coming in, it's gonna be an overlay district, so it'll trump the zoning. So you might be finding this 5-story multiplexes being put in next to single family. This is the rezoning without going through the zoning process. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. It's being, of course, fast tracked. So I expect this to be in front of the Assembly in July, probably mid-July.
Do you know the AO?
No, I don't. No, and yeah, so Tudor Road's gonna be affected. Anyone else along the transit corridor, probably Muldoon, I'm guessing. I don't know. It's something to look into. They have a map. It's pretty extensive. This is the culmination of the Assembly doing their little text amendments to Title 21, so. That's based on, so just keep your eye out. If anyone's got any comments, you're gonna have to go to his Assembly meeting. Make it known or write in.
Their agendas usually drop on Thursday before their Tuesday meeting.
Right, so you get a weekend to kind of see that.
But
Yes, I'm not sure.
we had Anchorage Housing Club come and present on transportive housing last year in December, I wanna say. Which, yeah, it wasn't the actual AO, but they presented on the concept and reviewed some of the maps that they were putting forward.
It was Aaron involved one day?
Yeah.
Perhaps Elizabeth might be able to shed some light on what involved in the districts. Might just.
She's not telling tonight, is she?
She's on the agenda.
Oh.
Yeah.
the coalition agenda,
Yes.
Oh,
which we're technically in, and
No one's in it.
waiting for,
Yeah.
but they're not due till 7.
We're running early, but I did notify them that we were running early and that we would probably be ready for them at 7, so we're just gonna.
9-minute.
9-minute break here for a second while we wait, and when we get some people on, we'll come back and get started again.
Yeah. 9-minute time. See where they're
Right.
anticipated.
We are recessed.
Consideration right now, once this passes.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're
fun fire.
gaveling back in with my 5th gavel at 7:04. Recess ended. Karina Brown has joined us, but the other reports have not. So what we'll do is,
Motion to amend the agenda.
yes, is there a second?
Well, second.
Okay, motion by Charlie, seconded by Kathleen to amend the agenda to put Karina between the education topic of council updates and representative reports. Is that? Okay, are there any objections? Hearing none. Ms. Brown, are you available to talk now for approximately 30 minutes after an introduction from Ari?
Yeah.
If you are talking, you are muted.
Well, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. So I'm gonna give the
Excellent.
floor to Ari for just a second to introduce you.
Yes.
And she's got things.
Yes. Because we are going to be respectful of everybody's time, and I know we have a lot of questions, Farina is going to give her presentation first. For people in the room, we have attachment, or we have her presentation printed out, and then I'll link it in the chat. When we get to questions, we're gonna take one question from everyone first. No more than a minute for your question, and then we'll go for second questions after that. We'll oscillate between online and in person, and I'll have a list so we can kind of keep track of who's next. I'll have that on the screen for everyone to look at. Again, please be respectful of everyone's time, and it'll be like one question. If you have multiple, just hang on to them. And as we have time, we'll come back. And then Farina will also make sure that you guys have our information so you can have follow-up questions as necessary, so. No, yeah. Farina, it's all good, if that works for you.
Alrighty, it looks like the timer has started, so I will get going. I don't know if you can actually see me on your end. The camera on my end looks like it is on the fritz.
We cannot, we just see a gray blur.
Okay, well, I'm seeing the gray box, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera. First, thank you for inviting me to participate in the meeting tonight. I want to apologize for missing the meeting last month. I genuinely just, I don't know how I missed the meeting. So I just want to say, Ari, thank you for being very gracious and allowing me to join this month, and acknowledging that I missed the meeting last month, and I genuinely want to just apologize and appreciate your flexibility. I will first very quickly talk about Turning the Tide. Turning the Tide is a website that can be linked to from the mayor's page from Municipality of Anchorage. If you click on Mayor, right at the bottom of that page, you will see a link that says Turning the Tide. We are really excited about this webpage because it provides a number of dashboards and data counts for individuals that are very interested in what we are doing to address homelessness. I think most of you I have spoken to at either your community council meetings or some of our more collaborative council meetings that we have had. But as you all know, that the LaFrance administration is the first administration that has provided year-round shelter. The Turning the Tide website provides a dashboard that allows you to look at the number of shelter beds that are available. You also have access to our ArcGIS mapping, which allows individuals to report a camp that needs to be abated. We've also added in an overlay to the abatement map that drops a pin and shows when an encampment has recently been abated. If any of you are familiar with reporting a camp, then you will know that there are often a number of pins that are dropped that are specifically one encampment. People get close. Sometimes we have, several bullseye. But what we found is that it overinflates the number of camps that are available when people are dropping them near. So when we overlay the map for abatement, it will collectively now pull all of the pens together that are showing for that one particular encampment that can be rather large in some areas. And it will show just one abatement versus every individual pen being represented as an abatement, because again, that gives an overrepresentation of the number of camps and the actual abatement efforts that have occurred. For us, when I say us, the administration, the Turning the Tide page is really important in helping the community to understand where we are with the availability of services, abatement and enforcement activity, and just general updates on what we are doing for homelessness. I know at the start of the administration, we stepped into a significant just kind of emptiness within the prosecutor's office, which is a critical component of any of the work that we do in addressing homelessness that often has a direct touch point with individuals that are committing crimes and being perpetrated against. I am happy to report that we are now fully staffed in the prosecutor's office, and we have a commitment from APD for increased enforcement for trespass, drug-related crimes, and theft. Those are often the crimes that are most associated with individuals that are experiencing homelessness. The trespass piece is going to be the most important for all of you here in the within community councils. Something that has also been new with this administration is after we abate an encampment, once that encampment, that area has been abated, it allows the police to then go in and just use trespass function as a part of the municipal criminal code to move people along versus having to go through a full abatement protocol. When we follow the municipal code 1520.020 for an abatement, we typically will post a 10-day notice of abatement, which is a pretty long runway because we have had so many camps. It often feels like once we get to an encampment, communities want us to just go right in and just kind of clear folks out. By code, we have to post any notice that could be 24, 72, or 10-day. We typically like to post a 10-day notice because it allows us to ensure that we have outreach going out and engaging with individuals. For us, one of the most important things that we can do is connect people to shelter and housing when housing is available versus just dispersing a large number of individuals into the community. I think all of you have experienced an encampment in your communities and an abatement. If you haven't, I am very grateful. But this new pivot to our ability to use the trespass function is something that allows us again to move very quickly. If we have a camper, go back into the encampment after it has been abated. So let me just walk you through very quickly abatement. Once we've posted that 10-day notice of abatement, we will ask our outreach partners to go out and engage with campers. Outreach is something that's essential to the work that we do because there are a large number of people, often women, that are in encampments that are victimized, that are trafficked. And when we post those notices of abatement and our HOPE team, the Homeless Outreach and Prevention and Engagement team, that consists of a police officer and a social work navigator, alongside just our community outreach workers go in, it gives vulnerable folks an opportunity to say like, oh yes, I would like to have access to shelter. That initial conversations feels very superficial to our team, like we're happy to get them out of there, but often that turns into that person's ability to escape a situation where they're being victimized. It's also the opportunity to help people know that this is a real thing that's coming. On abatement day, police will go into the encampment and give individuals a 20-minute warning that anything that is left in the abatement zone will be considered trash and will be disposed of. Unfortunately, we have a lot of individuals that will stay up until abatement day, and on that day, they will ask for shelter. So we are really lucky to have partners that are willing to go out even when APD is on site on abatement day to link people into shelter. After that 20-minute warning, individuals have to disperse from the abatement zone or they are subject to trespass. To date, we have not had anyone that was arrested at the time of an abatement for trespass. We find lots of compliance with that. Now, the meat and potatoes of things. And an encampment can take anywhere from 2 days to abate upwards of 18 days, depending on how long the encampment has been there, the location of the encampment, and the ability to move in equipment. Also, the time of year. If we are working during winter, sometimes our trails become groom trails and it allows less heavy equipment or other equipment to be brought in. And a lot of the abatement work happens based on just simple manpower and hand tools, breaking down structures and taking that material out. Our Healthy Spaces team is a dedicated team to illegal encampment cleanup. They are also the team that's responsible for going back out to the campsites after a camp has been abated. So we are really proud of those guys. It is a 14-person team that works 7 days a week, and we keep them very busy. All of that, well, not all of the abatement information, but all of our abatements to date, since the administration has come into office, can be found on the Turning the Tide website. Many of you may have heard at the mayor's most recent press conference, which was roughly 3 weeks ago now, where there was a commitment from APD as well as the mayor to expand our Healthy Spaces team. They are one of the most pivotal pieces that we have when we think about how do we change what we see in Anchorage related to homelessness. And that's our ability to really get on top of what I call a micro encampment. And that's after a camp has been abated or when 2 or 3 tents show up in a park. The faster that we can go out and have the team, the APD officers, which are typically our community action policing team, engage with those campers to let them know that they are illegally camping and they will be trespassed if they don't leave. And then having our Healthy Spaces team immediately come in and pull down those tents and clean up any trash that's left creates that visible impact that everyone wants to see. But it also heads off a camp becoming 2 tents that turns into 10 tents and then 20 tents. The sooner that we can approach, engage, provide outreach, and move people along, that's how we create change for individuals. Something that's also a bit different this year is that we have provided, again, year-round shelter. We have 200 beds at East 56th Avenue that continue to be open year-round. At East 56th Avenue, which is considered our congregate shelter location, we have on-site case management, which, again, it's really important to have a place for folks to go for immediate access when you have nowhere else to go. But we want people to be linked out of the system. Our shelter system isn't just simply a place where someone maintains a bed. That case management and navigation to other resources, often linking people, connecting them back to family, connecting them to housing resources, as well as our other shelter systems that can sometimes provide better navigation than our East 56th Avenue, has been really important for us so that we are not just providing that life, health, and safety, but what is that next step for an individual? As of June 30th, we will spin down our warming center. Warming provided a place for individuals to go between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. when our shelter system was full. For individuals that often aren't interested in engaging in shelter but needed somewhere to go during the winter months as our overflow. Interestingly enough, what we found during the summer months is that warming continues to be utilized. It is a place where we have APD officers that will drop individuals off that haven't committed a crime but don't know where to go. We often receive discharges from our emergency rooms. When someone is discharged at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, they will use our warming. As of June 30th, we will also be spinning down our non-congregate shelter beds. But on July 1, we will be activating 100 non-congregate shelter beds through a contract that was recently signed with MASH for an additional 100 beds that will operate from July 1 through December 31st, bringing our total shelter capacity for the summer to 300 beds. I want to emphasize to the group that that is a pivot and a change. In previous years, typically the shelter would spin down on a given day, and you would have anywhere from 300 to 500 people that just walk out of the shelter all at the same time with nowhere to go. We have taken as much energy, effort, and partnership as we can for any of our shelter beds that have spun down over the last 3 months to ensure that we're linking people into other shelter systems, into housing, connecting them back to family, and for many, allowing them to self-resolve so that when a service spins down, there isn't a significant number of individuals that are walking out of that door into our community without a place to land. I will pivot because there's quite a bit of information. Please make sure that you click on the link for Turning the Tide. It genuinely has a lot of information and provides a great dashboard. If you have any questions about the data on our Turning the Tide dashboard outside of our ArcGIS maps, the additional data is sourced from our data partner, the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness. So I just want to throw that out there because I am asked that question pretty often. Our upcoming project that many of you may have heard about is our designated overnight parking program. As a part of our larger homelessness strategy, we want to have as many tools and opportunities for people to land safely when they're experiencing homelessness, including shelter, congregate and non-congregate, as well as designated parking. So what is designated parking? I would love for all of you to know that designated parking is a structured pilot initiative that we are moving forward with the very intention of providing a safe, legal, supervised environment for individuals that are experiencing homelessness who live in their car, a safe place to park. It is and I want to emphasize this, a supervised program that would operate starting July 1 through September 30th. We are currently out for a request for proposal that closes on June 26th. If you do the math, you know that we will not meet our start date of July 1. I'm a little disappointed by that, but the service we will go through our evaluation process for designated parking, where we are currently soliciting for a vendor to operate the service. A vendor could bid to provide just a location or location and services. If any of you are interested or would just like to share, the request for proposals must be submitted no later than June 26th at noon. Designated parking has a very specific kind of lineage that it's following. In the lower 48, we have a number of models for designated parking that typically operate year-round, and they are 24/7. In Anchorage, last summer, we really experienced a overwhelming number of individuals that were in our community that created car caravans, that some of you had an overwhelming burden to host those individuals until we were able to have APD engage and really break up some of the larger car caravans that we saw around town. We have been pretty fortunate this year, but we don't want to allow our fortune to just be by luck, but it is ensuring that we really have somewhere safe to go. Designated parking will require individuals to have a permit in order to utilize the site. Permits are reviewed and approved by the Anchorage Health Department. Individuals have to have a driver's license, insurance, registration, and their vehicles have to be roadworthy. Again, designated parking is a seasonal service that would operate from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. It will have the ability to serve a family unit. What we know very anecdotally, because most folks that are experiencing homelessness and living in their car often have not yet touched a service provider that allows us to really better understand their situation because they're not entering our shelter system. We have a really unseen population of people that often have engagement. We receive calls from business owners, concerned neighbors, different social service programs, as well as APD, where they've engaged with someone who is living in their car and just needs somewhere safe to go, but they're not interested in going to shelter because there's a lot of shame and stigma associated when people think or know that you're experiencing homelessness. Designated parking creates that safe place for people to be. Again, it's monitored and supervised. Everyone has to have a permit. It is a drug-free zone. All vehicles are subject to search. And yes, we would be allowing family units, so minors would be allowed with their family. Designated parking will have access to restrooms, and we have a lot of language and very strict provisions around sanitation. We don't want to have a large community footprint or impact, so ensuring that individuals have a clean sanitary place to use the restroom, as well as access to trash and garbage disposal. I think something that most of you may find surprising is that we do not have a final site selected for designated parking. We have looked at all municipal right-of-ways, B3 and PLI properties, because we don't want to be caught with a situation if we have a vendor that comes forward and they don't actually have a site. We would like to be able to pivot and use one of our municipal right-of-ways. We won't know what location will be available until we have our proposals in, but we will have additional community feedback that we can present that really identifies who the vendor is and where the sites are that we are considering for using for designated parking. That information will be presented at large during a work session that's yet to be scheduled, but it will be scheduled before the July 15th meeting, which is where a vendor contract would be presented. So we still have quite a bit of runway to ensure individuals have an opportunity to engage in the process of where these sites would be located. Lastly, just a really quick update on abatement. I think most of you are tracking that we recently abated Davis Park and the snow dump. It is something that the administration has signaled for, I'd say probably been talking about it for the last 7 months. Leading up to abatement, we have spent a lot of time engaging in outreach to really connect with people. As you heard me say earlier, it is important that we are connecting people to some service, shelter, housing, or helping them self-resolve so that they are not just dispersing into the community. Davis Park is an excellent example of why we do not allow encampments to become entrenched. That encampment was there for more than 3 years and really unfortunately created a perception for many of the individuals there that was what felt like home to them and that they were not going to leave. So on abatement day, we recognized and understood that sometimes a thing doesn't become real for people until it's there and it's in your face and it's unavoidable. On abatement, leading up to abatement, we had anywhere from 20 to 30 people over the course of a month go into shelter or get connected to housing on abatement day. We had 25 individuals connect to shelter or other housing options, as well as 2 people go into detox. We also had a significant number of people who walked away, and between yesterday and today, we've had a number of people calling to access shelter. Many of you saw the pictures in the paper, the fires. I want to simply say that the fires were an exclamation point to the community, our commitment that we are going to abate. We are not going to allow camps to become entrenched because they become incredibly unsafe. And it is not something that we at the administration believe any community should have to host unhoused neighbors for that long of a period of time. It is a complete change for many of the campers who, due to Grants Pass and the Supreme Court ruling prior to Grants Pass, that didn't allow communities, governments to abate if there was not shelter. When Grants Pass was ruled on in June of 2024, that went away, allowing government, states, communities to abate regardless of shelter space. We at the administration have been working very diligently to help campers know you have an opportunity to accept shelter and supports, to avail yourself of those services. If you do not, we will abate and there will be ongoing engagement with law enforcement. The idea is not to criminalize individuals experiencing homelessness, but it is to make it incredibly uncomfortable that we want them to connect with services. Believing that your home is a public space is not allowable or acceptable. And I think yesterday was a real wake-up call for several of our members of the camp community that had not yet really experienced or believed that the administration and the community as a whole would abate and continue to abate. It is also a change for us as community members, knowing that it will feel uncomfortable as individuals are being moved along because they are making choices to not go inside. But we as a community do not have to say, well, they simply get to be in our public spaces. And so I just want to say as transparently as possible is that I know that this is not, for many of you, something that's unknown to you. Midtown and Fairview, you have experienced your significant share. Northeast, you've also experienced your fair share of hosting your unhoused neighbors. But we remain committed to a balanced approach, ensuring that we have shelter and supports, as well as abatement and enforcement. With that, I will pause because it was a lot of information, and I will take your questions.
Ellen, you have your hand up, and then I saw John, and then I saw Kathleen.
Yes, so, my understanding, you stated, that there was for the summer going to be, 300 beds available for the homeless. And, I've, the last count that I heard, there was about almost 3,000 homeless, in our Anchorage community. And so my question, is, so there's a significant gap there. And so my question is, has the municipality considered the supporting the creation of intentional communities? You mentioned at Davis Park, a number of people didn't want to leave because they felt they were part of a community. So it seems to me that they're recognizing human nature, that the municipality would be well served by supporting the creation of these intentional communities and using the example of in our backyard.
We can let Karina go ahead and answer because we've got a lot of other people and we're running low on time because remember this is part of the agenda.
Sure. Alan, thank you for the question. I want to be very clear that we have 300 beds in our Muni-operated shelter. That does not include beds that are available through Brother Francis, Downtown Hope Center, Gospel Rescue Mission, Awake, McKenna House, and other shelter providers. So when I am talking about beds that are available, it is exclusively those that are Muni-operated beds. To your question, 3,000 people, that is the total number on the Turning the Tide website, data provided by the coalition. We are specifically addressing those that are unsheltered, which the number listed, I believe, is 510. So we are not looking at 3,000 people that are just kind of walking around. They are, that 3,000 number comes from individuals that may also be in transitional living, which is considered to still be homeless in that 3,000 count. So I just want to kind of narrow that number down for everyone. As far as an intentional community, if you ever drove by Davis, walked through Davis, that's not an intentional community. That's not a boho utopian community where we are just kind of stepping in and saying, well, we don't want you here. That was a place that was known for drug dealing, drug using, trafficking, and a number of other very unsavory activities that had been allowed to exist. When encampments are there, they draw the wrong type of crowd. We are often asked about sanctioned camping. Sanctioned camping requires 24-hour staffing, security, access to services, resources, meals, without infrastructure. Sanctioned camping is ultimately shelter without infrastructure. Many people think that it's a great option because some people just don't want to go inside. Camping is never safe, and it is even more unsafe if there was a Muni-operated sanctioned camp because we have no idea what's happening inside someone's tent. And a shelter, I have roving patrols, I can walk around and I can engage and I know when someone is in distress. I have no idea what's happening in in a zipped tent that might be half a mile from where staff is walking around. The cost for unsanctioned camping would, if not rival, be more expensive than what we're paying for shelter, simply because you would have to staff it with someone who's also outside 24/7. Rain, sleet, snow, that staff would have to be outside, ensuring that safety and supports. So it is often brought up, but it is not on the administration's radar as an option. We do not believe sanctioned camping is a safe opportunity or alternative for anyone. But thank you for the question.
Thank you. John, you're up next.
Hello, Farina. I've noticed that you have a current practice of shutting down certain parks, like Town Square or Davis Park, in order to devote intense resources for renovations and or major cleanups. So I was wondering if you would consider expanding that practice to all parks and routinely shut down all parks on a routine basis in order to do landscaping, campground maintenance, fire control, intensive cleanups. So everyone would understand that a park would be closed maybe one day a week or every 10 days. So the public would see, oh wow, there's a lot going on in that park. There are resources going in there, and maybe that would stop this entrenchment of campers thinking that those campgrounds are available for extended periods of time.
Hey, John, that is a really great idea. And it has only been in the last month that we have started to shut down the parks for that intensive cleanup. We had no choice when it came to Davis. That is probably going to take about 3 weeks to really get that clean. But I will pass on to our Parks and Recreations Director. I think what you're presenting is actually a really great idea and would help really maintain the parks in a very different way. So thank you for that suggestion.
Sure.
Thank you. Kathleen, and I don't think we set the timer. We're gonna go to 7:45 for everybody.
So another half hour.
Okay, Kathleen Plunkett, thank you, Farina. I live in Russian Jack, real close to the park. And when you abated Davis Park and I guess the snow dump, a lot of the people did that you didn't house was move down the road to Russian Jack to the dog park. And it was going on all day yesterday, last night, even this morning I saw huge items going on. What is your plan for the future for how you deal with the people that don't want to be housed?
Thank you. And I'm going to apologize to you for the folks that are moving into Russian Jack. Russian Jack will be abated. We abated Russian Jack, the north end of Russian Jack in October. And I will just acknowledge that the south end of Russian Jack did not get abated, which does not allow us to use the trespass function to move those people along quickly. So we will be abating Russian Jack, and I want to be very, very clear about that. It'll be a couple of weeks, but we will be out there posting signs, notices of abatement to get those folks moved along. APD will be out this week patrolling in the area to move along any cars that are showing up. And then we will also have our Healthy Spaces team over the weekend, just starting to do some pre-abatement cleanup. But I want to be incredibly transparent that when people don't choose to go inside, they are going to move into our public spaces. And it is incumbent upon us as the administration to make sure that we're on top of that as quickly as possible to reduce community impact. We have to provide the outreach, but we also can't just make it comfortable where you can just, okay, well, I'm just going to go to this park. It is a different experience for people, and it's going to be uncomfortable for all of us. And I really, Kathleen, wish that I could say we're going to be there tomorrow, but that would be disingenuous.
Thank you.
Charlie, then Mike, and if there's time, I'd like it for myself on those.
Hey, Brandon, Charlie Welch from Mountain View Community Council. So want to start out by saying thank you for abating, because it's a lot better than it has been. But who do we contact when there are camps there? When there are people that are going back in? Because they keep saying that it's been abated, but as I walked by there last night about 7 o'clock, there were a number of people in the camps in Snow Dump and over in Davis Park. They're walking away while somebody is there, but as soon as somebody turns their back, they're going right back in and going through things. So what do we do about situations like that?
Hey, Charlie, thank you for that. So you are correct. We had police that went out and moved those folks along last night, and then police moved them along again this morning. I think I want to be really clear when we say we abated. Abated just means on that day we moved everyone along, but we are still doing the cleanup. Something that I didn't get into just simply because of time is the reactivation of a space. This is going to be obvious to everyone. The muni can't be everywhere all at one time. So after we have abated an encampment and we have thoroughly cleaned that, we really need the community to start re-engaging with that space so that it makes it unwelcoming for individuals to try to camp. Davis being abated just yesterday, absolutely. It is a natural expectation that people were just going to wait for the cops to leave, and then they were going to take their tents back. We're not just going to leave their tents. APD will continue to patrol over the next 10 days very heavily with an increased response time in Mountain View so that we are really enforcing and reinforcing to individuals that they just can't be in that space. During the day, the Healthy Spaces team will be on the Davis side, continuing to clean. And on the Snow Dump side, we have contractor support given how dense that area is and in some of the much larger structures and other cleanups that side that's going to require heavy equipment. For the Mountain View cleanup on the Snow Dump side, we have partnered very closely with J-Bear. And once we finish some of this initial cleanup, there will be a phased approach to a lot of tree cutting so that we're increasing the visibility on the Snow Dump side. And the municipality and J-Bear are talking through how we can reactivate that site in a different way so that it is not open for campers to come back in and that it'll be utilized by either J-Bear or the municipality. But they haven't kind of leaned in on exactly what that will be. So I hear you, and please know it's only day one, and changing human behavior is often not the easiest thing to do. But we, the municipality, as well as APD, are prioritizing all calls coming in from Mountain View, yes, over the next 10 days, and then throughout, because we know it is going to take time to change that behavior and ensure that we can hand the park back, and then work alongside J-Bear to activate those spaces in a different way that make them unwelcoming for campers.
Mike, you're next.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for this presentation. This is really interesting. I'm going to actually move away a little bit from abatement and camping because the thing that surprised me when I first looked at the data here is how much churn there is, how many people are moving into that group of 3,000 and moving out of that group of 3,000 every month. And a lot of those people aren't moving to housing, they're just kind of disappearing or they're finding their own solutions. What it appears to be is there's quite a large population of people who are near literal homelessness. And what I wanted to understand is how is that population being looked at? Is that something that if they're not in that chronic crisis position, is it just not something the Muni is concerned about, or at least has any services for? How do we support that next group that are very close to literal homelessness, or have just moved out of that but have sort of disappeared?
Mike, you're asking an excellent question. On May the 8th, we released about $5.4 million in, $5.1 million in emergency rental assistance. Much of those dollars were for individuals that were experiencing homelessness to move into housing, but a substantial amount of that was to prevent individuals from falling into literal homelessness. We completely recognize how on the razor's edge much of our community is. And so, how do we provide those resources? It's a little difficult because those folks often aren't touching the system until they're in that crisis mode. And typically, at that point, when we say they're in crisis mode, it is I have an eviction notice, I have a 7-day notice to quit. And so, when you say you see a lot of that churn, most folks don't fall right into being unsheltered. They typically will fall into an overcrowding situation and move in with family or into couch surfing. And so for the municipality, we are really leaning into and trying to ensure that we have a swim lane. And so we are putting a lot of our efforts and energy and those resources into having that immediate place to go, and then working with our partner providers for emergency rental assistance, eviction assistance, so that they don't fall into this category that we're highly focused on. But I appreciate that question, and I think to put a fine point on it is that often we don't see those folks until it's too late.
Actually, who can see my time in the future, just kind of a question.
Oh, mine's quick, yes. I was just wondering if the Turning the Tide website and dashboard had information on where someone can go. So like if we encounter someone and they're looking for shelter, how can we find out where to take them or direct them?
The Turning the Tide should have a link to our behavioral health pathways document. And I am looking, yes. So under resources on our Turning the Tide website, we have a link that says resources, and our pathways to behavioral health care for people experiencing homelessness is maybe a bit of a misnomer, because it does very specifically give you a bit of a breakdown on multiple different scenarios, but it also identifies our shelter. So what I can do is make sure that we just break out a shelter list that includes our Muni operated and overall community shelter, so that that's easy to navigate to on the Turning the Tide page. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for your questions and for a great discussion. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to Karina via email.
I'll include her contact info.
All right, we'll include her contact info in the notes. Next up we have. Oh yeah, sorry. Thank you, Karina.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Enjoy the sun.
I have Hannah and Pearl.
Okay, so I don't see anyone from the mayor's office, so next up we would have Member Rousey. Vice Chair Rowley, excuse me.
Yeah, hey everyone. Good to see you. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And I will keep it very brief because I know you guys have had some substantive discussion on homelessness, and Farina's really the best person to give an update on that. But also just to say, I know it's been a big topic of concern, a lot of frustration. I'm my emails have been full. I'm sure every member's has. So just to say, we hear you, and yeah, I think no one wants this situation that we have right now. We're trying to make it better. But on that point as well, I'll just mention there is, so we have a meeting on Tuesday, and it is the last one until after the 4th of July. Among other things, we are going to be considering an ordinance that is sponsored by members Gecker, McCormick, and Myers regarding criminal penalties for essentially camping outside or criminalizing homelessness. I know that's going to be a big topic. I know there are a lot of legal questions to run through. I know Farina just mentioned the Supreme Court cases. Certainly this is something other cities are dealing with, and I think the thing that I've kind of said to a couple of community councils now, not just about this ordinance, but is to think about what does success look like to you and what is a realistic measure of that success? Because I think we all want something that will work. We want a better situation than now. And it's really important to think about kind of what will actually be effective. I know it's easy to pass policy. The question is, will it actually do what it's intended to do? So I'm still reviewing that ordinance. I know there's a lot of legal questions, but I know that's also of interest to the community. So I'll just mention that. And then I will pivot back to other subjects and kind of zoom out. I know it's easy to focus on kind of what's in front of us right now and what we're seeing in the paper. But two items. One is that I way back in late April was appointed or selected by my peers, I should say, to be vice chair. So I'm happy to serve in that role. This is, I think, the first time I've been back to the FCC since then. But I'll be giving regular updates as much as I can. I know the chair and the vice chair are typically your liaisons, and it might have been a little while since Chair Constant had been here. So just to say, you'll see me more often, even though I know it's a summer break pretty soon. And then the one other thing I will mention in a more kind of positive, forward-looking note, hopefully, is this year, 2025, is the 50th anniversary of the formation of the municipality of Anchorage. So we had a city of Anchorage and we had the borough, the greater Anchorage borough, and of course, a number of communities all the way from Chugach, Eagle River down to Girdwood and Portage. Are in, right outside of, I guess Portage is outside of us, but anyway, created all these very different communities into one government. So I think there's a lot we can look back on and think about how much has changed in those last 50 years. Certainly the city has been built further out. A lot has happened in the world since then as well. Our financial situation has changed somewhat. We're not at the heady days of oil and all of the rest. So all of that to say, we are working at the municipality and working with partners like the museum and other folks, the business community, to plan some celebrations and really just not just celebrations, but really looking backwards and saying, where have we come? What is our history? A lot of folks like me have moved here less than 50 years ago. So I would love to learn more about our history, really within that space that people remember, not 100 years ago, but a lot of folks were still alive from back then. But also really looking forwards, using it as an opportunity to say, where do we want to go in the future? And again, I know it's hard when we're focused on the crises before us to really zoom out and think long term, but I think it's really important, and I think it needs to be grounded in where we've come from. And so this is just really an open invitation to community councils, to community groups to think about, this fall. We're not planning one big event. We're really looking for a series of events, some hosted by the city, by the municipality, others hosted by community groups, to reflect on that and reflect on the tension. Not everybody's real happy about being in one big government, right? So there's a lot to really explore there. And so I would invite folks to think about if there's an event that you all plan during the fall. I know sometimes there's summer events. I've been talking with Ari at the FCC about ways to get the word out or encourage people, and also just really to participate in that conversation, to share the knowledge that you have if you've been here a while, and then be open to learning from others who have that experience as well. So all of that to say, more information will come soon, but really excited about that milestone, and I will take some questions if we have time.
We have time for 2 questions. Kathleen.
So Anna, Kathleen Plunkett, and I know the middle of May, there were people that had problems with the 911 number not going through or not being answered for more than 20 minutes. And I know yesterday with a lot of the other issues, 311 also wasn't working. Do you have an alternate number that you can publish that if the emergency and non-emergency numbers aren't working, that can be used? I know I do for the state troopers for my mom, so I'm hoping we do.
That's a good question. I'll have to research that. I actually don't know. I wonder if it was a system capacity issue, if there were a lot of calls. There might not be a good alternative in that situation, but let me investigate that further. I'll talk with APD. APD and AFD share the same dispatch system. And so yeah, let me find out more about that. So I don't off the top of my head have another number.
And if you can pass it on to Ari, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll share what I find out.
Sure. Yeah. We have time for one more question? I don't see any further questions. All right. Well, thank you so much, Anna.
Okay. Yeah, have a great
And-
summer. Hopefully I'll see you next month.
All right, thank you. And next up, we have School Board President Carl Jacobs.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Carl Jacobs here with the ASD School Board. Just a quick note of introduction before I get started. Like the Assembly and Vice Chair Brawley, the school board reorganized in April. I was appointed by my colleagues as our chair, and I'm happy to serve in that role. That means that you'll be seeing me at these meetings going forward. And so happy to connect with the Federation's board, and I will make sure that your team has my cell phone number if there's ever any questions that I can answer off meeting time. With that said, our meetings have stopped for the summer, and so we're currently on a break. With that said, we had a special meeting held last week, and that's the biggest item I think I have to report on at this point, related to the line item veto of the funding that was associated with HB 57, and that had been incorporated into the state of Alaska operating budget. The governor effectively vetoed $50 million from the foundation formula line item in the state budget, which impacted ASD by roughly $4.2 million of anticipated revenue, and revenue that was legally included in that formula and then legally appropriated by the legislature. There was significant discussion and community testimony, which I appreciated at our meeting, regarding how to process that decision of losing that amount of resources for our students, and then potential paths forward. At the meeting, the board directed administration to do two things. One, to implement a hiring freeze of positions that the superintendent saw appropriate. So we didn't provide explicit direction, but instead allowed him to be flexible authority on that based on the needs of the district. And then the second thing we asked for was a list of potential items that we could reduce our operating budget by, should the funding that was vetoed by the governor not be reappropriated through legislative processes, specifically a veto override. With that said, what I think I understand is that the legislature probably will not have the statutory required number of members available to express interest in a special session before January, likely. And so I anticipate that override vote will happen in January based on the information I know at this time. The only other item that I think is of note is in the near future, the Department of Education Early Development, State Board of Education will open up a 30-day public comment period on the local contribution regulation rewrite that would effectively rob ASD of $15 million in additional revenue that we receive from local government, things like mental health support, pre-K classrooms, and additional transportation funds. Could have potentially wide-ranging impacts, like school resource officers, and removing those officers from our schools. And so it's a really dangerous and ill-thought-out regulation. We'll be standing strongly against it, and we'll certainly loop in the Federation as we have opportunities to connect and share more about that public testimony opportunity. Essentially, you'll be able to write in comments for 30 days. And so it would be a great time for councils to examine passing a resolution if you happen to be meeting. With that said, a bunch of information, happy to answer questions, and then I appreciate the time to brief the council tonight.
We have time for one question. Mike has a question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate it. As the largest school district in Alaska by quite a long way, I know there have been questions about whether the veto is actually legally permissible or not. Do you see the role of an individual school district, even the largest one, as potentially pushing that legal question, or do you think it should be done elsewhere?
Yeah, sure. Great question, Mike. Short answer is yes. The downside is that for me to appropriate money for lawyers, I have to take it from somewhere, and it hurts. And I think it's frankly reprehensible that a school district in Alaska should have to focus more money on its legal team at the expense of classroom instruction. And so we've avoided that. With that said, and I'm only speaking for myself, I have already encouraged the superintendent to strongly consider where we can reduce expenses apart from a school budget. to make that investment in the legal resources necessary to challenge the state and its poor decision making at this point. I don't know that I have anything further to share on that, but I know that ASD isn't the only district asking that question.
All right. Thank you so much, Carl. And if anybody has any additional questions, they can reach out via the notes.
Yeah, also
Okay.
along his contact information.
And Elizabeth Appleby is not here, but my understanding is that there is a report. Do you want to read it into?
Yeah, I'll just read it really quick.
Okay, do we want to extend by 2 minutes?
30 seconds.
Okay, go.
The Transit Supportive Development Overlay is at Planning and Zoning Commission on July 14th, and materials are available to review online. The manufactured and modular housing ordinance and nonconformities ordinance are going before the assembly in the near future. They were just recommended by PCC. The Community Council's boundary 10-year review will also be at the assembly in the near future, but they don't have a date. PCC continues to meet and discuss a 10-year targeted update to the Anchorage 2020 Comprehensive Plan and the 2040 Land Use Plan. The work sessions at PCC are open to the public. Feel free to email or call the Planning General line. I'll provide the information in the recap email with additional questions on these code changes and projects. Thank you.
All right, it's 7:59, it's 8 o'clock. Last chance for comments. Vote to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Kathleen, seconded by Charlie. We are adjourned at 8 o'clock.
Yay!